And we are live. Welcome to the Cognitive Rampage podcast. Hope you're taking care of you. Hope you are living your cognitive rampage. I'm going to continue on with the live reading series I've started. I'm not sure how many chapters I'm going to read from my book, but we shall see. This chapter I've already read. If you want to go back, I know if you've listened on the podcast, the last podcast that went to iTunes and everywhere else was the Dedication Forward in chapter 1. This is chapter 2. It is Competence Creators. I wanted to preface this podcast by saying, when I wrote this book, I tried to fuse all of these sciences out there and theories together, that being the biological, the neurological, the cognitive, behavioral sciences, and even environmental and social sciences, and bring those together. Well, so you didn't have to go out and read all of those books and all of those theories and how they applied to changing your life or just improving your life, right? So it's an actual experience. If you ask me, there's a lot of work to do through the book, not just reading it. You learn about the principles of change, and then you go into the tools of change, which is rational self-analysis to build your life philosophy, which is the second tool of change. Then you apply those to the components that we change, right? So then you take those components, they end up creating your life philosophy foundation, which better helps you make decisions, your actual philosophy. Then we move into the Ite Inventory, which is the third tool of change. And this brings in the behavioral aspect to our lives, right? It opens up with the cognitive approach, addressing what we believe, how what we believe shapes how we think shapes what we think creates how we feel, and how we feel predicts how we will behave. So you can attack your beliefs and how you think to change how you feel. And you can also do it from a behavioral approach where you change your behaviors that then shape it in reverse, right? So it's encompassing all of those. The components to change include things like nutrition, movement, sleep, light exposure, things like that. And so for me, I needed to add the Competence Creators as chapter 2 before I get into this, because there's a lot more new sciences developing, new things that are showing up, and people that are on the forefront, really, of these new approaches and things that affect our lives and influence how we feel, how we think, how we behave, etc. And a lot of them are new sciences. Some of them are, been around for a while, but, the competence creators that I include in this chapter were those that influenced my life, that had an impact. There are a lot of people, a lot of very intelligent individuals that are out there researching in all of these aspects. You may know a few on your own that you prefer, but these are the people that reached my life and had to do with, me changing my life or improving it, and still do along the way. If anything, I know at the end of this chapter, you'll have some people to look up and check out. All right. So without further ado, let's just get into the live reading. Since I know everyone loves to read in public and in front of people, I'm putting together the audiobook is what I'm doing. So, I figured might as well just make it a live podcast and read live and increase the pressure enough not to screw up or read your own words wrong, and see, what happens. Had a little technical difficulty freaking out there. I don't know what that was, but we're still live and good. So, without further ado, really, this time, I think, as I said on the other one, this is The Cognitive Rampage, a scientific approach to self-discovery, change, and life optimization, read by Adam Lowery. Chapter 2, Competence Creators. Quote, "The possibility of flight was once an impossibility until it wasn't." End quote. This simple statement by Aubrey de Grey captures all the possibilities of human potential. Amazing discoveries happen almost daily. The capability and capacity of humans seems infinite. To Aubrey and all of my mentors mentioned in this chapter and throughout this book, and those who are not, thank you for painting your life experiences unapologetically with the most authentic strokes. Thank you for being fearlessly who you authentically are. To my readers, open yourself up to the possibilities fearlessly. Expand your own beliefs, but be willing to tear them down too. Your life may depend on it. To examine yourself, you need to know what to look for. You need to understand what makes you who you are now. It does not necessarily mean you need to spend hours on the couch randomly reviewing thoughts, feelings, and experiences. This too is a circle you can find yourself lost within. I believe we can target those beliefs that most define you. But most importantly, it is not so much what you review as how you review those influences. I will ask you to examine your beliefs, your life experiences, your external environments, both past and present, as you duel within the collage of your present internal environment. In looking at your beliefs, I will ask you to consider what you believe to be true, how you process information, and your self-talk. Your internal environment includes your biological and genetic design, history, and functioning. Your external environment is important because the experiences you have had with people, places, and things have created your perception of reality. Your perceived reality shapes how you process information. The internal and external environments continually challenge each other. Your biological, genetic, and neurological development and present functioning have been and continue to be shaped by your experiences, and your experiences have been filtered through your biological, genetic, and neurological functioning. I believe it is this cocktail of variables affecting you at varying moments and degrees throughout your life that makes you who you are, how you are, and why you are. This may sound like the nature versus nurture debate, but I believe it is much more complex. It is nature and nurture and more. Simply stated, all the key variables perpetually impact your current state of being. These perceptions are strong enough to concretely shape who you believe yourself to be and who you will become in the future. It is not important to me to find a formula for determining how much of these variables impact us. It is more important for you to discover what variables seem to have impacted you the most. How many authentic moments over a lifetime can potentially impact your internal environment to create the infinite combinations that become the ever-changing you, the individual? Recognizing the limitless combinations, can we really define the individual in concrete or subjective terms? This is who I am, this is what I believe, and this is what I believe is truth. We all may experience similar situations, issues, and moments in life, but we cannot experience life exactly the same as someone else, even if we tried. To think so is arrogance. We are not all wired the same. Life did not give us all the exact moments and the exact experiences, especially at the exact same times in our lives. Since we are not wired the same, we do not experience life the same, even in similar situations with similar context. It is nearly impossible to be the same. This is why I feel as though this is why you may feel no one has ever understood you. It is because they cannot. Your own beliefs about yourself, your experiences, others, the world, and truth will change over time. That same process happens for everyone. The possibilities for the differences in beliefs at any point in time seem almost infinite. Dr. Bruce Lipton, author of The Biology of Belief, surrounds the power of belief with more potency than I have heard to date. One of his examples is about a mother's love for her child. A mother has picked up a car before to save her child. How could this happen? Adrenaline does not make us superheroes. But do you think for 1 second this mother thought she could not pick up the car? I love this notion because the seemingly impossible was just that, until it wasn't. This speaks to the power of the belief, a foundation for your cognitive rampage. Accept what you believe to be true and not true in its entirety about any given moment in any given moment. Possible or impossible at any given time may not be true. My simple approach to the notion of impossible is this: if you are not willing to talk about the impossible, then you are planning for the inevitable. Accepting the power of your beliefs is the most important first step you can take. Understanding that your beliefs are biologically linked to your past and present is essential. For this reason, I wanted to provide a brief overview of some important new concepts in science. This is not provided merely to provide information, but to potentially challenge some of your existing beliefs or knowledge. These are very brief summaries of in-depth sciences. I invite you, if you're interested or if you're doubtful, to explore and investigate and examine as I did. It will change you. Dr. Rhonda Patrick, Life Extension in Practice. The knowledge of what your body is doing, will most likely do, and needs to function properly, if turned into action, will help you forecast your future and prevent much suffering. Dr. Rhonda Patrick, a leading biomedical scientist, provides new scientific platforms with her research and voice. Her colleagues and fellow researchers share and build on one another's discoveries. Dr. Patrick freely reveals her research and insights from years of concentration on the best ways to increase your lifespan. She provides many scientific and organic methods to protect the health of your body and mind. Her research linking nutrition, vitamin D, gut bacteria, head trauma, and brain functioning to mood, mind, and body function is life extension in practice. Breakthrough research and new revelations are emerging consistently from Dr. Patrick and her colleagues. They are revealing hope with their work. Hope because this research brings medical and mental health, scientific research, and even nutrition together. Epigenetics. Dr. Patrick and another virtual mentor quoted at the beginning of this chapter, Dr. Aubrey de Grey, are authors and biomedical gerontologists. Both work in the emerging and dynamic field of epigenetics. Even though epigenetics is founded on some paradigm-shifting discoveries and principles, I will use a brief speech given by another virtual mentor, philosopher, and Competence creator, Jason Silva. His shots of awe approach to explaining epigenetics is a shining example of delivering a cognitive rampage. I believe this speech to be an experience, whether read, heard, or seen. He leaves you excited and wanting more knowledge, more understanding, and gives us more possibilities. Quote, Jason Silva. There is a lifelong debate, the nature versus nurture debate. Are we pre-written beings? Are we predetermined? Do our genetics dictate our fate? Or are we made by our environment, molded by our experiences? Does language structure how we see the world? Does culture dictate who we become? Are we molded and shaped by the unfolding dynamics of interfacing with our environments? This is known as epigenetics. Literally, things that happen to you in your formative years can transform how your genetic structure is expressed. Experience can change biology. In recent debate, and cited from the social life of genes, the explanation that epigenetics goes much further in that experience throughout our lives actually affects our genetic expression. I have used the quote by a doctor researching epigenetic influence that ourselves or our bodies are a technology that turns experience into biology. Even the cognitive framing that we give to experiences can change the physical expression of our cellular biology, so that consciousness itself, interpretation, storytelling, and framing, how we give meaning to our lives, can actually have a real effect at our genetic level, the way our genetic software expresses itself. We all have seen the bumper sticker stating the power of the mind and the power of positive thinking, the fact that we can shape our reality. But this notion does not affect genetic expression one point in our lives, but throughout our lives. It means that we are constantly composing our own biological unfolding. I design, therefore I become. This is the power of experience on your now. End quote. Thank you, Jason Silva. The brain. Mind and body improvement, optimization, and extension is not just a multi-billion-dollar business. Most importantly, it is one of the fastest growing areas of science. We are learning to prevent disease, create active healing and extended life through improved cognition, nutrition, movement, and the study of biological and genetic variants. Emerging research and new technologies such as brain mapping and imaging, neurofeedback, frequency stimulation, and neurotropics are changing lives. I believe we are still in our infancy in the true understanding of the human species' most complicated evolutionary and powerful tool, the brain. Yet again, Dr. Patrick's voice and research on brain functioning, including history and treatment, are revealing the brain as potentially playing a starring role in shaping how you see the world and interact with it. If we are in our infancy in understanding the brain, then our understanding of brain trauma is an embryo. We know even the slightest brain disturbance or damage can be devastating. To ignore the brain in considering your development would be naivete in its most obvious form. Your brain may be the most powerful influence to who you are. Perhaps the answers to all your questions are locked in your brain, waiting to be discovered. Stephen Kotler and Jamie Wheal, Flow State. Does our brain master us, or do we master our brain? Does it generate thought, or simply act as a receiver, processor, and organizer of information? Virtual mentors Stephen Kotler and Jamie Wheal, founders of the Flow Genome Project, provide a wealth of knowledge relating to brain stimulation, functioning, and optimization, also known and defined as flow state. I'm still trying to catch up. As a freestyle poet since my teens, their work on flow state continues to pique my fascination. Stephen and Jamie's new book, Stealing Fire, researches and details all we know and don't know about flow. This is a real-life superhero power. There is so much left to be discovered, and like a child on his birthday, I eagerly await for more of Stephen and Jamie's Competence creations. Hormones. Dr. Mark L. Gordon. There are more than 50 hormones circulating and secreting from you, all affecting you at various levels of functioning and development. Dr. Mark L. Gordon is an expert on biological functioning. He is also a healer, researcher, game changer, and virtual mentor I look to for competence regarding hormonal influences. His knowledge, research, and daily practice centers around various hormonal balances that need to be adjusted, monitored, and maintained. These balances are affected by traumatic experiences, poor nutrition, medication, genetic structure, and most certainly environmental impacts such as exposure to blue light. Dr. Gordon has been a prominent advocate for this emerging research for years. He presently uses these treatment interventions for those suffering from severe post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, and even addiction. Dr. Gordon is changing and saving lives. He is reducing the overuse of synthetic interventions and therefore reducing overdoses. He is helping fight the magic pill epidemic and the standard addiction treatment process I call chemical incarceration. Dr. Mark L. Gordon is a competence creator. Dr. Jack Kruse and Light. First off, there is no simple way to dumb down this man's life-changing work, but I will attempt it in a very short disbursement. Blue light is killing you. Nature and sunlight heals you and cannot be substituted. Dr. Jack Kruse is a neurosurgeon, optimal health educator, and an innovator, to say the least. His immense research on various light effects on humans' health is shaking up the entire scientific community and changing lives. It will save yours, to say the most. From your eyes to your fingertips and feet, our light absorbers and the types of light we are absorbing and not are causing your health to diminish at a rapid pace. We are surrounded by artificial lighting and environments full of life-sucking energies. Environments devoid of our natural human needs. When I found Dr. Kruse's work, believe me, I was thrown back, and not to mention could barely grasp the science to which he has so meticulously studied, currently writes and speaks about. Since installing just his basic concepts, biohacks, and methodologies, my life, not just physically, but mentally, began to move to a level to which even the most optimal nutrition and exercise could not create. Indeed, all matter on Earth is made of atoms. However, all life on Earth are made of cells. Therefore, to clarify, all living things, including our bodies, are made up of cells, which are in turn made up of atoms. Atoms are made of electrons, protons, and neutrons. We are made of light. The type of light you lose and absorb matters. I'm not a scientist, and as I promised earlier, I want to keep the discussion of science as an overview intended to challenge your thinking and perhaps spark your curiosity. I only recommend these competence creators' work and their voices as a place to find knowledge, and with that, amazing possibilities. These scientists, researchers, authors, and educators are a few of my virtual mentors. Later, I will cover in more detail how important mentorship is in living your cognitive rampage. I wanted to include this chapter because I'm a believer in the value of science, both that which has been understood for centuries and that which is cutting edge. I listen with a sense of optimistic possibility and pursue any newly acquired interest. I also did not want this book to sound as though nothing else affects your development and current state of life. I am not this naive. I am excited for what the future holds in science, for our health and lifespan, and what that means for our enjoyment of life. The emphasis on science in no way limits the spiritual or religious forces. For some, their personal definition of spirit is essential to their beliefs and motivation. The word spirit is a vague word with a broad subjectivity. It may also make some people uncomfortable. I use it and ask to be included in my life, and I treat it respectfully. You may substitute this very nebulous word with your own specific word and meaning. Or you may consider it the essence of you or the tone of your life's narrative. Or don't use it at all. But this would not be my advice. Although this is not a requirement of this organic prescription for change to be applied in our physical and conscious world. It is defined as you deem it in your life. Sometimes accepted science is found to be flawed or incomplete. It changes and grows just as our own knowledge and beliefs change and grow. The same may be said for the spiritual. End chapter. Yeah. Whew. Love reading in public like that. You start reading, you're like, is it over yet? Going to the next page. But those are just a few of the competence creators, that, they're studying things that influence our lives, man. I mean, the epigenetic effect in our lives, the light exposure in our lives. There are a ton of things we're finding that are having new influence in our lives and a lot of harm in our lives as well. The next chapter I'll probably certainly read the next chapter, which is chapter 3, The Journey, where I basically just talk about what you're about to go on, the journey you're about to go down, the things you're going to apply, etc. But I certainly wanted to include those creators, and especially the line that I'm not this naive that just these things I talk about affect your lives, but the things that I write about are things that you can control. The things that you have power over, that you can add to your lives and make changes with. So I told you the Competence Creators chapter was rather short, and it certainly was. If I do keep reading on, I'll read The Journey on the next podcast, and we may move into, the principles of change. I can cover those and just talk about them really here. The core beliefs principle is the first principle of change, where I talk about your core beliefs. What do you believe about others, self, the world? If you ask a lot of people, what do you believe about the world? Depends on what day it is, right? Depends on how how the money's doing, or how or what they've been seeing on media or social media, right? So a lot of people don't really go that far into the beliefs, really, about what they believe specifically about the world, others, and self. And it tends to change, right? So the core beliefs principle goes into those 3 core beliefs. Your core beliefs being what you believe about the world, others, and self, and getting to know what those are, right? Because that speaks to the second principle, which is the B2b principle. The B2b principle states that your beliefs create how you think shapes what you think creates your feelings, and your feelings predict your behavior. So often people tend to say, I just have a feeling. No, you had a thought. You had a thought that created the feeling, and we like to talk about it in feelings. right? So if you want to change how you feel, you got to change what you think. To change what and how you think, you got to change what you believe. But in order to know that, you got to be able to change, well, no, you got to be able to know what you believe, right? And I preface a lot of this by saying there is no truth, right? If you can remember that there is no truth, that everything you believe to be true about the world, others, self, etc., is your mere perception that has been concreted by your experiences with those people, places, and things, with the world, with yourself, and with others. And then we, well, determine these beliefs, what I referenced in that core beliefs chapter called concrete beliefs, right? And our core beliefs many times are concreted because, well, it was our experience and you can't tell me otherwise, right? But if you can really begin to grasp the fact that there is no truth but your mere perception, right? If you ride a roller coaster, you tell me it's not scary, I ride it and I say it's scary, who's telling the truth, right? These are the perceptions of it, right? So this is the realm we start to play in. And then the B2b principle I cover. And then the third principle of change is the H equals C, that humility equals competence. And that plays into the fourth principle, which is the CCE principle, that competence brings confidence and confidence breeds enthusiasm. That enthusiasm is actually the scientific state of happiness, right? That's what you're looking for. And when the H equals C principle is applied, when we can be humble in ourselves and question ourselves, question our beliefs, we can become self-competent to become self-confident, not falsely arrogant, and then move to where we can become enthusiastic in our lives and our choices, etc. And those are the principles of change. And then we go on to rational self-analysis, what that means. That's actually a tool of change. And it gets deep, and, a lot of people have read this book. And it's rare that you find someone that actually has done the work. And, well, maybe that's just life, right? But that book is an experience, right? And it's hard to question your own beliefs and your own experiences of the roller coaster of life itself. But I'm serious, though, if you're looking for an actual scientific based book about change, not just motivation and wordplay, and this book here, you get some of my own stories, so there's a little inspiration, but you're not going to get a whole bunch of wordplay and data boys and data girls, and you can just, well, Nike it, right? You can just do it. I wanted to give somebody or people an actual solution, something to do and apply in their life. I came out, wound up on Rogan's podcast and do my own podcast, attacking the mental health system on how I believed we should be able to provide more. And all of these amazing theories, some that I just covered, are out there, but yet we're not able to utilize them either because insurance does not accept them as a form of treatment or intervention. And, well, I found that to be unethical, that people were coming to myself and other practitioners for help, and all they can really do is abide by what insurance allows. So I got tired of just, well, bitching. I wanted to do something and provide something. So I worked 3 years on this book, The Cognitive Rampage, which is based in my theory, trans-rational structure behavior theory. And, well, wanted to give people an actual something. Follow this map, do this. The change comes from you. It's a real effort. So keeping the podcast short here, we're just under 30 minutes. So wanted to do that live reading of the Competence Creators chapter. I hope you enjoy it. And, a huge thank you to all of those that do watch live on the Facebook page, that share some of the content and competence that I'm putting out on the Cognitive Rampage Facebook page. A huge love and shout out to all of the podcast listeners. If you're driving in your car, you're listening to it when you work out, just thank you so much for all those that listen there too. Our numbers have been the highest they've ever been, which is really cool. I'm so grateful for all of you that are listening to this, that share this, that subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Stitcher if you're on Android, or even Podbean. I found the podcast in a bunch of places. So it's really cool. This is episode 226, I think. We've been doing this a long time. So a lot of love to everybody out there that's watching, following, sharing, subscribing. It's a lot of help too if you leave a review on iTunes. Over this last month, we got ranked number 10 in a couple different categories on iTunes, which was really cool. It gets me all verklempt. I get all teary-eyed and verklempt. So thank you, everybody that's just been so supportive of the Cognitive Rampage. And those that have bought the book, thank you so much. And if you know somebody that's going through it and, you really want to be able to give them a solution, a thing to do and to apply, send them this book. You can get the Kindle for $3 or something like that. I dropped the book down to just $10 because of, the new year's coming. People are looking for change like that. So it's just $10 and it's a full on application there. And also, we do have a YouTube page. On the YouTube page, I upload all of the live podcasts that we do here on Facebook. We upload to YouTube, and there's some playlists that are on the YouTube page, Cognitive Rampage YouTube page, which are not on the podcast. So if you're a podcast listener, go subscribe to the YouTube page. You can check out a funny playlist called Rambling Rampages. That's just where me and an old friend of mine get together. We knock a few back and, well, just talk shit and laugh and have a good time. So those aren't published on the podcast feed, but you can catch them on YouTube. That's also where you can find all of the playlists of all the videos I've done. I do a lot of live videos where I just go live, sometimes give a mental dose or a quick lesson about life or psychology or something like that, as well as all my personal cognitive rampages where I'm just pondering my own meandering in this wildly amazing human experience. You can see all those playlists on YouTube. A lot of love if you subscribe there. Also on Instagram, where I post up, well, a lot of things that I say, really. On Instagram, or on Twitter, too, and all those places you're supposed to be at. Like, follow, share, subscribe, review, all those actions. You know, I'm supposed to say all that, I guess, at the end. And a huge shout out to our sponsor, Vermont Pure CBD. They have, well, continued their sponsorship on to the next month. Their last month worked out well for them. Huge shout out to Grant Jacobowski. You can go back and listen to episode 220 with Grant Jacobowski, where he basically covered all things medical cannabis. It's pretty wild. Their products, I use them. They're full spectrum products, which means they still contain THC, but not enough to have the psychoactive effect. I learned a lot about CBD. You know, there's CBD isolates where they isolate the CBD, and which has healing properties, but when they do that, they lose other healing properties because there are healing properties in the THC, as well as things like CBN and CBG. They get removed in that isolation process. Well, with Vermont Pure CBD, their products are full spectrum. So they include a lot of those healing properties that are taken out with other isolates. All right. So you can go to VermontPureCBD.com, put in the code word Rampage, get 10% off right away. Look, I use it. They got massage oils, they got capsules, they got droplets, tinctures, pain rub-ons, like a cream thing you put on, just all kinds of amazing stuff. So reach out to them if anything and say hello. Tell them Adam sent you from the Cognitive Rampage. Also, use that promo code. You get 10% off. So a huge shout out and love to Vermont Pure CBD for, well, coming back on for a month, too, of sponsoring this podcast, y'all. So love y'all. Hope you're taking care of you. The holidays are winding up. I hope you're getting ready for 2019. I'm certainly ready to see it. Got a whole new plan that we're doing in 2019 that I'm going to, well, give a go. There's a whole lot in my life that, well, anytime I typically want to do something, I certainly go and at least try it. Stand-up comedy has been one of those things new in my life over the last, 4 or 5 months or so I've been doing. It's a lot of fun. Definitely a lot of fun, even when you bomb. But it's been exciting. So I'm trying something new in January as well. And, well, I'm going to give that a shot and see what happens and see what we can create in 2019. So I'm going to take off the rest of this week. I don't know if I can take off. I hate to sound like Gary Vee and all those other dudes that I hate the weekend and time off and shit, but it's true. I work a lot. I like what I do, and I like working and pushing through and doing things like that. So it's just kind of being in limbo, right? So I consider being in the lab, I guess, when I'm not working, and I tend to do more podcasts, maybe write a little bit more and think and plan and get ready to go and continue the chess game in 2019. And I hope you're ready to do the same. Love y'all. Hope you're taking care of you. Hope you're living your cognitive rampage. Love you.